Listen, people outside of the loop. That's right. Wait a minute, I'm like, I did that 4 or 5 meetings in a row. Finally, yeah. We thought it would, you pass things to the doctor. Like a penny sheet of that thing, they'll take minutes. And he started signing in.
Well, we have our, what I always tell my guys,
At least more than one.
Job
Attraction. It does, because it's a very niche, it's a very niche, whatever. It's a very specific group of people that's catered to. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but if you bring up, you young boys, you find, yes, preface is a lot of our little. Good morning. How y'all? Good. How you doing, Brian? Have it for the next 20.
But it's,
Yeah.
was that the other meeting?
After this, everybody's different.
The actual board meeting? He wanted to do
He felt that we hadn't done this level of activity. She was mine, just trying to do this. Not complete that.
I ain't been doing it nearly as long as you have. It was my thing.
You had a couple of options. We looked at all kinds of.
About the other one?
Yes, maybe the.
I mean, I just been in our report.
Boss man.
That was what
I got some though.
It's there anyway. But I did talk to
do it the right way. That's just, if you do it the wrong way, they ain't that good.
Yeah.
That's the lane.
You'll be all right. Take care of what yourself work. Don't have other things.
Good time.
That's what I
Oh, yeah, time.
That should say it right. He didn't want to experience that where he wants to make a mistake. He wanted to, we was just talking fair about the right thing. When you get to the point of the road, talk about it, so you're on the right path versus I go kind of figure out the back and then you get the time that was like his money. One guy did early, you know, I want to fully bet before I hear about it. So
Like, Sarah, has she not contacted you? And I was like, well, first off, it's not you. And she said, we have an error.
They went out there.
I mean, I thought you would be
all your money.
that role, but not officially in that role. Sure, looks good. Yeah, they, but I have to get volunteers to help walk off the road.
That's pretty far.
Yeah. having our step out there as well.
That's really good, not a great thing, but I understand maybe how that.
They just constantly roll.
You get a year out of it, you're doing good.
And that's the case.
I mean, yeah.
Or maybe you will.
18 should. Whatever it is. Lost in 18.
Figured out. Well, that's.
Well, to tell me what we are already ready. I would not be like.
I've already paid for it.
Jury station, jury board, that's all it does.
I don't know where it was. I've already paid.
I don't know.
But you're doing that on your
All I
own.
do
Get all the
is
ladies
it's
out.
tight.
Yeah.
Put the fees together.
Just see what you can write.
I
Hold
saw
that.
We have a couple that didn't do it, and after everybody.
I don't know if they were slushes in town there before. I don't know. But they was supposed to find out. And it could have been, I didn't do my homework. But the message is
All right, good morning, everybody. Time is 9, so we'll get started, get everybody in, get them out. We'll just tell you no off the bat, so if I think you want to leave early, go ahead. Todd is out, Miss Steffi, having some sort of procedure this morning, so, just keep them in your prayers. So we'll consider all that to be the call to order, for our public meeting this morning on budget consideration. And, if there's anybody from the public or the citizens, if they want to make any remarks on the posted budget, now would be the time. All right, no comments or no statements from citizens on the agenda, so we will move down to the agenda number 3, and that'll be Judge Pat.
Morning.
Morning.
Appreciate your time this morning. So as you can see, I operate off of a no frills, no fluff budget. I acquired this budget, inherited it, if you will, from Judge Rice about 11 years ago. And for the most part, that's exactly what I've operated off of.
It's a wonder he doesn't come up there and check on it every once in a while.
He did for a while, but you know, he bought him some goats and he's got a donkey, I think, a couple of donkeys, and so he's got a life now.
He still comes by the courthouse about once a month.
Yeah.
Last time I saw him, he was wearing this Hawaiian flowery shirt and a pair of shorts, and that just insulted me, I'll be honest with you. I thought he had a heck of a nerve coming in here smiling. I mean, he's even got a nice attitude, so.
I actually saw him this morning, and he told me talking to his goats and donkeys was the most intelligent conversation he has most days.
Well, you know, I'm a 30-plus year county employee and been doing this part for the last 11, and I'm starting to understand his attitude, you know. Dealing with some of the same folks, it's just generation after, I'm up to about the 3rd generation, I believe, or 4th. Cody?
We might ought to poll the goats and find out if they agree with you or not.
Well, maybe that's better left alone. So, I was looking to see which, y'all got the same thing I got, I believe.
Yeah.
So let's come back up to the top here in a minute with the salaries and stuff, and let's go down about midways to where it starts with legal and the attorneys. knock on wood, I've been fortunate. I haven't had to bother our county attorney. I'd like to keep it that way. The zeros in that is perfectly okay. I'm not, as you can see from previous years, I'm in good shape with that. Prosecutor and defender. Now, as you go backwards, you see that years change, and a lot of that depends on my misdemeanor calendar. If I've got somebody that wants a bench trial, then I have to schedule two attorneys, basically, a prosecutor and a defense attorney, and we've got some that we share with probate court, and so we've got things worked out where we can do that. But it's a hit or miss as to whether or not how many I'm going to have. Here again, I've been fortunate with that part. I think in so far I'm up to $600 as of today into this year's budget. So I'm okay with, if you look at the chairman's figure, I believe that's set at $1,500. I'm good with that. Here again, I'm a team player. Every year I come in here and I tell you that same story about inheriting budgets, and every year you ask me to give just a little for the team, and every year I do. And here again, I've been fortunate. I don't know of a year that I've come out in the red. I've always been in the black, always had some left to share with some of the others that wasn't so fortunate. But I gotta have something there for rainy days. The interpreter, I'm not good with those zeros. Now, here again, I've been fortunate, usually at least once a month, I'm gonna have somebody who does not speak English. Now, I've been very fortunate this year not to have any Karenis. We had a year where that was multiple times, and it was tremendous because there's no Kareni interpreters, and when they do, it's a $100 bill if you're doing well, depending on how long you need them. But I've been fortunate this year and past years, last several years, with Spanish-speaking clients. And I'm talking about when a person is arrested, whether it's on an existing warrant or whether they're arrested and the warrant's coming, I'm the first judge they see. Within 48 to 72 hours, I have to give them a bond hearing. If they don't speak English, I've got to hustle to make all these things work. Now, past couple of years or so, I've been very fortunate because we've got a couple of sisters that's on the payroll here. Miss Jeanette in the clerk's office, as well as Julia in the sheriff's office. And because of where they're at, they understand the basic needs, if you will, as far as what I'm asking, what I need translated, and they're in a trustworthy place. And Katie in the clerk's office is always good to say, run down there and help them out. So fingers crossed, I've done well. Sheriff has always been good with Julia. She used to work in the jail. Now she's in CID. Here again, I can plug them in there. Time-wise, it works good. They're already on the clock. That's good. If it's on the weekends or at nighttime, I try to be crafty with my scheduling where I can still get it in that 48 hours and be able to use one of them. But zeros in an interpreter's blank is not even, that's not workable. I've got to have something. And I'm okay with using that $200 figure there and just banking on good fortune or banking on Susan helping me with an amendment to pull from someplace. All right, let's see. Coming on down. Where am I at? And I'm looking over here at the chairman's side of things. I'm okay as we come on down through there with the chairman's figure. Court reporter. coming down to that, I think he's got 800 in there. I'm already, this year, $16 in the hole on that. So I really think the $1,000 is a very reasonable number to plug into that court reporter. I've still got several more months to go. Preliminary hearings is where that comes in. When you do your bond hearing, and you, in all of that paperwork, in their rights, they have a right to have a preliminary hearing. That looks into the probable cause for their arrest, the validity of the warrant. So in that bond hearing, if they say, I want a preliminary hearing, then I have to get the district attorney's office, public defender's office, and a court reporter all somewhere. As a matter of fact, here in about a month, or towards the end of the month, I've got a preliminary hearing. I'm having to use your room, as a matter of fact, because I don't have a courtroom anywhere. That's another battle for another day. But under that court reporter, I would strongly encourage plugging in that $1,000, and they're very lean as far as that part goes. Let's see. The books and periodicals, unfortunately, I'm forced to keep a certain amount of legal literature. I don't agree with it, I don't like it, but they kind of push that off on me. So whether you go with the chairman's figure of 1,300 or you come over to the 2,300, I mean, let's face it, it's got to happen. I'll take whatever you give on that. There's got to be something in there. I'm encouraging the 2,300 and hoping that's not going to go that deep. Small equipment down at the bottom, I'm still holding on to that 3,000 figure that was originally requested. I'm here again knocking on wood. I think I got $875 or $6 worth as of today's date for this year. I hope I don't have to have any more. Susan, am I missing anything on that latter part that I highlighted? Have you got it highlighted?
I
Okay.
keep what I wrote, all of them.
All right, so let's come back up to the top. Let's talk about the salaries, because that's the thing that varies year to year. I don't fuss or make a racket about any of this other stuff down below, and I do my best to work within the lines, and I have, and will. But when you come to the salaries, of course, I'm going to ask for 5%. I think that's a good faith effort. I got a good crew. They work hard. They work together. You never hear them say, that's not part of my job, that's theirs. They jump in there, and they take care of whatever. Matter of fact, I left Cheryl a minute ago, and she's usually doing bond hearings about this time of the morning. She's got one on the list. She's working on civil papers that was filed online, trying to help out before she does that bond hearing. So, of course, I'm going to ask for 5%. But team player here, I'm okay with 3%. I really believe that if you want to hold on to your people, no matter whose office they're in, you need to show something. Times are tough. I get it. But it's tough for them too. And as all of our taxes go up, forcing our escrows on our mortgage to go up, our house payments are going up, inflation is going up. I don't think anybody in this room will argue the fact seems to be more and more going out than is coming in. So I'm fighting for that chairman's figures on that top half in the budget for the salaries. I think 3% is a good faith effort. And if you do 3% across the board, everybody stays on the same page. And that salary thing that we did not long ago, it might have been longer than a year ago, trying to keep everybody on the same level, competitive with other counties. You know, I'm not expecting you to do more for my side of the crew than you're gonna do for anybody else. But I would like to ask for that minimum of 3% across the board as a good faith effort to show you people we're here and we're trying our best. And I know that's what you're doing. All of us are taxpayers too. And so that's the thing that I keep in mind when I come here with this piece of paper, is the fact that, yeah, I'm a county employee, but I'm a taxpayer too. Gotta be a line in the middle of the sand somewhere. No frills, no fluff. That's my little budget. I appreciate your time and consideration. Questions, anything that I'm leaving out?
Yeah, I have a question, not specifically budget related, but I know the chairman has mentioned to us your need for court space. And tell me what has changed, or what's the difference that's increased that need, and where do we need to be, or what do those needs look like?
I appreciate that. I have court, well, my two biggest court dates every month comes on the second and third Tuesdays. We have misdemeanor hearings along with animal control stuff on one Tuesday. We have code enforcement on the other. Now, those are the two biggest crowds that I draw. Now, I have court every week, but it's on a smaller basis with our civil side of things, with dispossessions or evictions. And that little room that I got now is perfect for an eviction here in the dispossessory, because usually you just have a few people. It's not a big deal. But on those Tuesdays where we draw a crowd and there's people sitting all in the hallways, and some of these others can attest to, I can draw a crowd of them. And it's not always the best smelling, but they can draw a crowd of them. Robin doesn't always appreciate the amount of Lysol that's needed to fix the hallway back. But they set for standing in the hallway, and I call them in one at a time. That's the way I handle it. That's always a big group. You know, that was the thing that moved us to that hallway to begin with, was to establish some type of a courtroom where we could take care of those daily things, and that's worked out good. Before, Judge Rice was having to use this room. Superior Court takes up a lot of space. For the next 2 or 3 months, they could be in a corner somewhere. I mean, you know, and I can tell you this for a fact, because I had to schedule preliminary hearings. I had to go all the way into the beginning of September just to try to tag a spot. And then I ended up calling on Christina, said, hey, old times, can I come back in here and at least get that done? I was on timeline for that. You know, when that building, the old funeral home, when that building become available the first or second or third time, that's been back some time ago. Cody's keep me straight on this because you're part of it. In the beginning, when that building was available and we were going after it, it was our understanding that juvenile court, probate court, and magistrate court would share that building. There'd be enough room for the admin, perfect courtroom without a whole lot needed. Of course, as time rocked on, it was a no-brainer that if you go that direction, now you got to move some form of security over there too. And I get it, that's not cost effective. And then later on, I heard the possibility of Lamar's office and Robin's office going over there. And then that would free up some office space up here. It would also free up more room on my hallway, and I could actually have a bigger courtroom, something appropriate. And that was the last I remember. And then somewhere along the way that fell through, and I think Tracy ended up over there. And that's a good fit. I mean, that's a whole lot of room for her. it could still be shared. I mean, if Lamar and Robin was still willing, and I'm just speaking out loud, I hadn't talked to them, and I sure ain't trying to evict them, I'm good friends with them, I don't want them to think I'm trying to kick them out on the porch. But even at that, with what room you've got left, I mean, we're kind of deadlocked in this building, unless you're going to start building out in the parking lot. But even at that, if you put Lamar and you put Robin over there, I mean, that's still giving me more space where I could actually put everybody in the room and they wouldn't be sitting out there in the hallway. All thoughts, for what it's worth.
Is it an inconvenience for this to be your courtroom some distance from your office there?
Most definitely. And just the layout of the room, that means that I'm gonna be sitting here in the center, and I'm gonna have the DA's office on one side and a public defender with their client over here on the other side. See, I'm gonna have to bring the inmates over. Now, if I can get into the big courtroom, we do that remotely sometimes. Sometimes I bring them to me anyway. But having to come all the way down here on the end and make do, and I'm glad to have that opportunity, but
this is not a real solution.
This is not a solution, no. And at least we'd be all together, you know, if I had to have, if we had something to come up in court, I could go across the hall and find it or whatever. Now, when it comes to courtroom security, I left that out, but that's in there somewhere. Jack Huff is my bailiff. Jack's one of a kind. Now, here lately, he's been on the payroll anyway, helping with that. So he's my courtroom security, and as long as I can keep him happy, wherever that falls on that space too, I'll put a plug in for that. If I can keep him here out of the mountains, he goes back and forth from the mountains being used. But he still plays an active part with animal control and code enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a long history as far as a county employee goes. He can remember stuff, but I just can't believe he pull that stuff.
He wears a lot of hats here.
Oh my gosh. But yes, if you can find somewhere, somehow in your dealings to help make it happen where I could have a better running. I know Cody is always good with sharing his, but that's the problem. Superior Court's been taking over his too.
You mentioned security. I mean, there's a line item for security, so
There is.
is Jack's, I mean, is that the essence of Jack's money, or does he fall under like the regular wages and this line item something different?
For the most part, usually the way the courtroom security has been working for all of the other courtrooms is it comes from the sheriff's department. So there's an internal journal entry or invoicing that happens for Judge Patton. Like he said, he usually utilizes Jack, and so Jack is already on the payroll, so his payroll, and he's not here every day. His is actually filtering through animal control at the current time.
Because most of the time, he has a foot in that door anyway with the stuff that he's doing. Now, you know, if as far as the other days goes, if I have a hearing and it's something I know that there's going to be potential trouble with, most of the time I can read between the lines. I'll just call Scott and say, hey, can you keep an eye on things down my hallway? I've got one that's, and most of the time, if it's where he can, he'll just come in and step in the back door. And just that presence avoids a whole lot of mouth and attitude.
But at the end of the day, David, the flow through the courthouse itself, from where the prisoners or inmates are brought to the courthouse to the point that they have to be escorted through the building to get to where you're at, the flow is wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, it's at the end of the day, and looking at the big picture, security is a real issue, and the further you get away from the holding area and all like that, the more we compound that issue.
Yeah.
Which puts a burden on the sheriff's office about adding personnel, because the role of the bailiff in Jack's case, and the role of actually providing security and escorting prisoners, those are two different things.
Now, you know, I've got a back door right there at me, and so most of the time, when I'm scheduling them to come in, if it's just the normal stuff, if it's a bond hearing that I've got to do and I can't do it online, or if it's dealing with something else and I need one of them brought over, maybe they were arrested on a bench warrant because they you know, for county ordinance stuff or something. I plan specifically for that, where they bring them in the door and I'm ready for them, I take care of them, and I try to make sure they get back out. But you're exactly right. I mean, depending on what I'm dealing with, if it's the preliminary hearings, the one that brings the crowd, you know, that's always an issue, because as you know, we deal with some of the finest accused, whether they're a child molester or drug trafficker or murderer. So the less that we parade them through the middle of the courthouse with everybody else,
the general public, the better off we are.
Exactly. And see, that would make it doable. They could come in and out that back door if it was some way to acquire the space across the hallway too. I mean, that's enough to actually get filing cabinets out of Pepper's office and have a place to store, and also to cover some of that First Amendment auditor kind of people as we label doors moving forward for personnel only stuff.
All right.
That's helpful, thank you.
But I appreciate you asking that.
Any other questions, Jim? Thank you, sir.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, Judge.
All right, next on our agenda is the high sheriff, jail, and dispatch.
Good morning.
Morning.
We want to.
Then you will be disappointed when you don't get any of it.
That's right, there you go.
We looked over it, I think we're gonna be pretty good. We got, you know, with the sheriff's office, you just never do know, you're gonna go up and down in different areas, we just move money around, so it's good about that. Everything's good, we're working with the city, so, unless the mayor's got something major to talk about. I think
I'll be honest with you, if y'all got questions about things moving forward, y'all say we're transparent. Susan and I work close together, so. Just when she gets a text or an email from me, it's like, oh my God, this just broke.
Yeah.
Here we are. This might happen. So, you know, moving forward.
Yeah,
It hurts.
and of course, y'all, you know, already aware of the conditions of the jail and all that, so we're not gonna sit here and just keep on and on about that.
That has been a discussion, we're sort of trying to set the stage to move that forward.
That's right, and that's what, and that's a long process, that's a big.
We'll do that after we retire once here.
Yeah. Oh, maybe we'll get one for you.
I might beat you.
There you go.
I hear you, brother.
Explain the negative on the courtroom security wages.
So just what Judge was sitting here explaining. So if you look, our overtime, we have one overtime on Department 50. Department 50, actually, overtime kind of spools out of that as well. So what she's talking about, some internal coding. So if I have a deputy sheriff who is off duty, who is working at Superior Court, he comes in and puts on his timesheet that he is making overtime for working for the clerk's office at Superior Court. It funnels through my overtime budget, but it basically reflects back to that. So that negative you're seeing is a reflection of what's going to other departments. So it's kind of the exact same thing with SRO breakdowns y'all see with 53.
So it's a reimbursement.
Yes,
It
it's an internal reimbursement to realign their overtime line.
So it's not so much a negative, it just shows up somewhere else.
Correct.
Correct.
To identify it here, it comes out.
Right, that total there is what, if you look at all of the other courts, you're gonna see courtroom security, so all of those together comes back and totals this number. It's just an in and an out kind of thing that we do. it just ends up working out better because the way we were doing it before we started this last year, the sheriff's department was getting hammered. Because,
and to be honest with you, it looked bad as a reflection of him because we were so over budget in our overtime, but technically we're not. You see what I mean? So it's a way to actually, okay, this is how much of that overtime line is going to this department. So it's a track, checks and balances. So.
And thank y'all for understanding that we're trying to move some of the vehicles into regular budget off of SPOS.
Yeah.
In my mind, we really have been operating under a budget wasn't a true representation of what we're doing.
Correct.
You're right.
Yeah, to be honest, we've been buying about 6 vehicles a year.
Yep.
Average cost is about 63 grand per vehicle, so I mean, it's crazy. We used to buy three Chargers or 3 Crown Vics for 100 grand, but oh my God.
Those days over with.
Way.
now it's taking almost that, just to purchase one and out and up
Yeah.
Are we cycling the vehicles as we need to? Are we, I guess where I'm going is to make sure that we're not spending more on maintenance and upkeep than we are. If it costs 2/3 the cost of the vehicle, then you need to be buying new vehicles.
I'm spooling as many of those Dodges out as we can because we put so much money into them and we just didn't have the money to buy more, and now things are a little bit better than they were.
So picking up charges, some of them had 2 motors, or motors been rebuilt twice.
Yeah, so a lot of those things are gone. We just stripped another one yesterday and sent it over to Irene, so I mean,
So what are y'all gonna get, Teslas?
that's what I told him, just pull in the parking lot.
We're talking about the little Hondas.
Yeah, maybe a little smart car.
Ironically, our most, car that we chase the most is a Honda.
Yeah.
They haven't been known to outrun us, so.
What are y'all?
They got the Explorers.
40 Explorers, yeah.
We do cycle their older vehicles, we cycle them into county vehicles. So like we've got a truck from them not too long ago, we've used it property valuation. We've got a code enforcement officer that's got a very old truck, and I think y'all just turned in 2 Tahoes over there, so we're gonna cycle them through. So, the courthouse staff, rec department, we try to keep what is still usable to stay, 45 miles an hour in the county.
The chairman still drives one of our old vehicles. So.
Yeah, matter of fact, I think the one the chairman's driving is recycled that we bought, or y'all bought,
From
the
GBI.
GBI.
Yeah. Yep.
So how many of those little trucks have we, I know the SRO over to high school. Cause I
That's
was
all
talking
we
to
use
him.
them for.
That's all.
That's all those are used for,
Yeah,
right?
there's no room.
But I mean, but they're, they're really good on gas and
They are.
everything. Yeah, so, but, okay.
In the event that we are able to come up with some working solution for David's issue about inmate holding over on this side, and while I know that ultimately it would be charged back to his department, do you have the staff available that would work those additional hours, or is that something that is it mandatory overtime or is it voluntary?
It's voluntary. I mean, we've had, back in the past when we were so short-handed, we've had, look, you gotta work, you can't work a second job unless you work your first job.
Yes.
That thing. But, right now, it's voluntary overtime.
As far as staffing goes, I'm short 3 on patrol, I think 1 in dispatch, I believe, and 2 in the jail. We were a lot worse, but they're trickling back in.
So just for you guys to educate me a little bit more, in inmate transport and stuff like that, is that, and I know that all the Tigers have stripes, but.
So pretty much the transport, I think what you asked, the transport, that's not even part of the court at all. That's straight from the
Do
jail.
you use
budget.
deputies or jailers?
Both.
Both.
Depends on how busy
Whoever's
they are.
available.
So if let's say Mark, and then or like the transport officer are busy,
Uh-huh.
then we'll have to use somebody off the road to do it.
Patrol.
Use
Okay.
patrol, which usually, Clint or Hanley's usually available, which lieutenant and captain over jail, then they do it.
There's 4 certified peace officers in the jail. One's the captain, jail administrator, the lieutenant, Brandon Hanley. Then we've got 2 dedicated transport deputy sheriffs.
Okay,
They're on
that
their
was
units.
what.
They're dedicated.
They dedicated for that.
But Mark, I'll be honest with you, every day, he's usually in a long route, because we're going to state prisons, we're going.
Your transport
yeah,
folks aren't just bringing them from our facility to the courthouse. They may be
That's the least
taking
amount.
them to, they may be
Yeah.
taking them to a state or other county where they may have some.
And mental health transports is the biggest thing, because they're almost every day, the 1013s. Yep.
And then like juveniles, now we have it here in Carolina, but we was carrying them in Wilson County.
Our regional youth detention center now, that's College Park.
So they did move it to.
They did.
So we'll take them today, College Park, usually pick them up the next day, and bring them back.
Yeah.
That's where they had to go this morning, from Walker Court today.
Earlier this year, we had some discussion and review of your medical, the contract for providing medical services. Is that where it needs to be now for you guys?
Dr. B, in my opinion, does a fantastic job. He does. Our hospital budget this year has kind of gone to pot, and a lot of it has to do with the couple of inmates that we had very, very, very severe, couple of heart attacks and kidney disease that is on the taxpayers, because honestly, they were multiple child molesters. There was no releasing them. They're waiting on court. So that one hit home pretty hard, so. But
And then every once in a while, on one budget, you'll have a transport that's, way off.
It takes 2 to
Well, the way we do it now, it's actually cheaper to contract it out.
yeah, we have one in California we had to get, that was a absconded sex offender. So we just transported out, and U.S. Marshals brings them in.
But that was still what,
4 or 5,000?
yeah, something like that, yeah.
6,000.
I think it was about 6.
6,000, I think.
Yeah.
I'm just pulling
Yeah.
numbers off, yeah.
Yeah, that was one of his bombs.
Yeah. Got one
Hey,
waiting,
heads up.
I got one waiting in Chattanooga now, but I'm gonna let the river
Yeah, well.
decrease a little bit, so I can't swim, so.
On unit 52 on Chant, I'm just curious, on the revenue, that 17,000, where's the label of drug abuse assessment, where does that actually? Is that
So
a state type thing?
The date, drugs, if you will, as far as the charges through Superior Court, OCGA says that money that comes from probation fines, fees, Superior Court, there's an allotment of money that comes from Katie's office back to, and that furnishes the drug education program. So by law, it has to go there.
It's a surcharge on
Yes.
specific.
Yeah, correct, correct. Yes.
I don't know if I've ever caught that before.
Yep.
There's a lot to those little surcharges.
Yes, yes.
All right. Do you have any questions on sheriff's office, jail, camps, SRO?
I just got this one on the SRO. So the difference with what's reimbursed and the expenses, what's the biggest thing that is that difference?
So one of the SROs, who is actually the lieutenant, we use him in our department a lot, because he's
Okay.
also the agency's firearms instructor. There's a lot of things that Justin Hanley does for Department 50, so Department 50 covers Justin Hanley's salary, so that's one of the, if you see a breakdown, he's not being charged to the school because we use him quite often.
Okay.
So we pull him.
Okay,
You know,
I got it.
just another certified instructor for Georgia Post, so we use him quite
So
often.
it's a little misleading when you look at the budget.
It can be, it can be. So,
All right. Move to 911.
That's you.
Thank y'all.
I don't want to two things that somebody, I guess it was, Chairman highlighted in red on the maintenance control office equipment and on the mapping supplies. One of them is, the two of the maintenance contracts that, that we had annual service agreement with duplicating systems. That's been in place since David was there. He bought that big copier up front. We paid them a maintenance contract. And the other is the other one that falls into that budget is our, playback recorder, the maintenance on that. So those are still in place, and that's where those come from. The mapping supplies, that's still stuff we have to do, and we have to go out and assign addresses and enter all of that fun stuff and maintain that map on our side. Right now, that map budget is being used for our CAD, because that's where our GIS mapping comes from. So it's still needed as well, because we're required to have that. Everything else is just pretty much like everybody else in the county. All your experienced people are here, all your intermediate people are here, and all your turnover is constant. So it's always fun trying to keep everybody in there, get somebody in the seats to handle all the calls and send folks where they need to be. So overtime's always an issue when you're shorthanded, because you got to have somebody do it. That's inevitably going to be somebody who makes a little bit more. So the overtime's always going to be there, and we try to budget for that.
911 center is another one of the facilities that we're having discussion on and trying to figure out where to make it fit best, et cetera. What is the status and condition of where we are now? How urgent would you place that?
Water still falling. You want me to be frank with you? It's done.
To be honest,
Yeah, it's done. Yeah. It was built in the 50s. It's a concrete slab floor built on what appears to be sand. We poked a hole in the wall to see why the wall between the kitchen and the radio room was sinking. And you can see that it's going to eventually come in. And the roof, inside the roof, the attic, the walls are very limiting. Not much you can do with concrete block walls. The technology now is a lot different than in 1997 when they started the 911 center and used that building for it. We're going to make it work. But for all intent and purpose, it's done. That's the short version. I mean, it's hard to put something functional in something that's already full of dysfunctional pieces. So it's literally just, we're gonna make things work.
Well, that's a problem in Madison County. Things work until they don't.
That's right.
And then it's a huge problem. We're never in a proactive mode. We're already in a reactive mode on things. A classic example is what's looming in regards to comments you guys made earlier this year about a jail. And we need to examine our whole public safety thing. We don't need to decide we need a 911 center, or we need a jail, or we need. It's not a question of or.
Right.
We need.
Yeah, it is. And if you can do it on your own terms, where you're planning to do that, it makes everything a lot more efficient and effective than it does if you're confronted with an issue and you got to address it before you can do anything else. It makes it a lot more easy to deal with something on your terms than to have to, because you have to. And I think that's consistent all the way across the board. We have put together some plans and some drawings and talked about those things. Logistically, it'd be in everybody's benefit to have the 911 center somewhere near where the EMS and the jail is, because that's where all our primary equipment is. You cut out a link, you cut out some connections, you cut out duplicating some of your software, hardware, physical facilities and servers and things like that you have to have here, and then send that information over there to send it everywhere else it needs to go. With all the sheriff's office records that we have to maintain and keep control of, it would make a lot more sense to have them at or near the sheriff's office, so that you don't have to, every time we serve a warrant or pick up a TPO, somebody's got to come get it. Every time you send somebody to go get a prisoner in Columbia County, they can come by there and pick up the warrant, go, or they got to go pick them up, come by there and pick it up on the way back. So it gets handled several times. Logistically, it makes the most sense to have a building near our primary transmit site where we can physically connect to it and have it at or near the
the sheriff's office so that all the paperwork and everything else is all in the same place.
We could call it a public safety complex.
Absolutely.
In the real world.
We just gotta find some solid ground to put it on.
Yeah, don't put it on landfill, please.
That's for dang sure.
Yeah.
So what is, it's been a little bit of time, but when we upgraded 911, and we'll separate the system and the consoles, you know, what's kind of the core unit
Right.
versus the facility is housed in, is what's our life cycle on kind of what's in the building, not the building, I get it, it's done, but what's the life cycle on the, I mean, are we planning by the time if it's, let's just say if we got you a new building in the next 12 months, are we moving stuff over and we're good, or are we, you know, if we plan you a new building in 60 months, then we need to plan for everything to go with it?
Yeah, if we're talking about 2, 3, 4 years down the road, it's gonna be a whole different conversation than it is for now. And the reason for that is, y'all have all seen a lot of the stuff about the next gen 911 stuff that the state just passed. That's gonna cost us a ton of money. We have the ability and we have the stuff in place doing that now, but we don't have the systems they say we're gonna have to have. So we're gonna literally have to replace a lot of the systems we have, doing exactly what they say we have to do with the systems that they say we have to do what we're already doing. We're about to spend a ton of money, and that we don't have a choice. They're literally saying the county governments are gonna have to do that, and that's gonna be in the next 2.5, 3 years. I'm not a fan of that. I didn't like it. I wish they hadn't passed that law. I voiced my opinion. You know, they'll see where I'm at. I ain't gonna listen to my opinion, but they don't keep me from sharing it.
No, but I think, going back to
yeah.
what Danny said, and I think all of us, I'll speak for all of us, but I think that's the type of stuff we want to try to do better on and try to get a handle. So
I agree.
when you leave here today, it's like, hey, in the next 6 weeks, I say we need a memo. We need some written thoughts on this is what's going on.
Right. Okay.
What we don't want is we got you a new building and we hauled all that new equipment over there and then, a couple of years ago, they told us we had to get this, now we need that. That's what we're trying to get away from. So, and it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt taxpayers, it's gonna hurt other things, it's gonna hurt. But we gotta get to a point where we can live with it.
In the next 3 to 5 years, we're probably gonna have to spend, more money than I'd like to even stand here and talk about. At some point, we're gonna have to put out a P25 radio system, because we put it off. What we have now is working fairly well, and it's something that's within our budget. But that's not gonna continue. As much oversight and as many entities as there are pushing certain certifications and classifications and modifications and the next gen 911, and all the infrastructures are gonna have to work together. In the next 3 to 5 years, we're going to end up spending $10+ million on 911 stuff.
See, and those are the kind of conversations that we need to know and we need to have, because when we pair that with something else, it makes it a lot more palatable for us to say, okay, we may need a $20 or $30 million bond that we need to pay over the next 20, 30 years for certain purposes. There's reasons to do it and there's reasons not to do it, but, I'm not a big fan of bonds where we just gotta go get $1 million here and $1 million there and just patchwork stuff up. But when we have a collective group of improvements that need to be made, that makes more sense.
It needs to be all inclusive. We don't need to go through the exercise like we did with our 911 system, where at the end of the day, we were patting ourselves on the back with the 911, and then we had, and when I say third party, some of our volunteer fire departments came in and said, well, we don't have coverage. Well, that was part of the exercise in putting it together, that everybody at the table needed to say what they needed.
Absolutely.
And then, we don't want to be glad with what we've done and then find out it's not adequate to do the job that needs to be done.
Well, it definitely shows, and just the discussions this morning, facilities, whether it be 911, the jail, the courthouse, the stuff that's, especially with the legal system and all what's required there. I mean, it all needs to be combined and thought about and put together as a doggone program and as a plan. And, yeah, it's gonna require a good bit of money, so.
Particularly all what y'all do is so intertwined. You
Yeah.
don't need to look at it separate.
That's right.
It is.
And we have habitually, I mean, that's the way we have done things. We need to quit doing that. We look at everything as a big picture. Figure out how to be a solution that's gonna last 25, 30 years.
A Band-Aid don't stop cancer.
That's right. I mean, if we had the facilities, and I don't know, but if we could get all those things together with the court system and all that too, and make it real convenient to move prisoners and all that kind of stuff, it makes sense. I mean, it just makes things more efficient and cost a lot less.
Well, having that conversation is important, because that's what happened, you know, the jail expansion, you know, what, 2010? Whatever it was.
Yeah, 16,
You know, we were using numbers from 1998 and 2000 to build an expansion for a jail that was outdated when we started. And by the time we got done, you're like, we're gonna put people. And it's a different world. It's both financially and operationally, it's a different world than it was 10 years ago, and it'll be the same in the next 10 years. But knowing some of those challenges and planning for them makes life a lot easier. But not on the pocketbook, but on the line.
You know, we figured out when we took over the, you know, sheriff's office and jail, we figured out this patching stuff cost you more money.
Yeah, it's gonna be, it's hard to believe, but, you know, and some people, as you look at the citizens of Madison County, look at this, and they're gonna say, when we start talking about some of the money that's required, it's all gonna be, oh, it's, you know, this is huge amounts of taxes going, but in the long run, we're gonna come out much better, and it's gonna be showing a lot less money if we go ahead and plan it really well and execute it like it ought to be done, and not keep on like we have in Madison County, as has already been alluded to by my fellow colleagues over here, that, you know, we just sort of do it as we have to do it. And that's when we're in really bad shape, and I've been, you know, in Madison County my whole life, and I've been here longer than most of you, and, you know, people, you know, one thing, and I'm saying this, and I probably get some people that will be mad with me, but we can't just continue. We've always at the Board of Commissioners looked at, well, we're gonna try to keep the taxes down there low, and if we do this, we're gonna offset this with our, a lot of times with, you know, the increase in the tax base, okay? Well, it's getting where that don't work. It used to work, but that don't work anymore. And so, with all the things going on in Madison County and all the needs and all, it's gonna require at some point, things will get adjusted and the tax is gonna have to increase. And, I mean, I don't like it. I pay taxes in Madison County either. But, if we continue to have the services, and we have good services, and we have good public safety, we're gonna have to, you know, it's gonna have to be paid for somehow or another. Cause if you don't, you're not gonna have good employees that you can depend on, and we're not gonna have the equipment we need to do all the things. I mean, 911's critically important, EMS, all those things, law enforcement, I mean, we all gotta work together.
Well, I think under our administration too, we ain't really, I think we've showed, you know, the years we've been here, that it ain't the want we asking for, it's the needs.
That's
we ask
exactly.
for.
But, and that's when we need to make it clear, this is what we need, and we need to be doing something about it now and planning for it, because if not, we're gonna get down the road and there ain't gonna be no return. I mean, we're just gonna have another thing where we got stuff falling in on the landfill, as it were.
And what a lot of lay people don't realize too, you know, all y'all stuff is interconnected, whether it's, you know, the dispatch, whatnot, and, you know, but it all boils down to, you know, failed services in y'all's service. Either people don't come home, or we violate something, and you'll have a third party outside judge, federal judge come in and say,
And we
boys,
talk,
y'all gonna go fix this, and by God,
when we
y'all
first
gonna pay
took
for
office, we talked about that with our jail.
it. Yeah, I mean, it's just,
But luckily, we was able to fix some things.
Yeah.
so. Appreciate you, fellas.
Thank y'all, appreciate it.
I'm notorious with cheap. I reuse them all the time. My wife probably ain't the only one around that does this, but sometimes she just looks at me and says, you know, it's okay to buy something new sometimes.
Appreciate that.
Thank y'all.
Right,
Look. Next victim.
all right. We're out of money now.
I know, next time put me first on the agenda, maybe y'all will have a little bit extra.
Sorry.
You've been way nice all these years, let's continue to be that way.
Now that he's an author, he should.
That's right.
Hey,
You're a celebrity now.
oh, come on. Hey, speaking of, and this ties into my budget proposal and what's going on today. Some of the material that our research going into that book is an actual docket of slave trials that the probate court has. It goes back to 1812, and it documents details regarding the trials of certain slaves right here in Madison County. And last week, I've got a line item in the budget, printing and binding. It's falling apart. I mean, it's, the pages are so brittle. People come in and want to look at that, take pictures of it, and it's not uncommon for folks to come in weekly doing genealogical research and things like that. But anyway, we sent it to be rebound to preserve that book. We've got a lot of books like that in our vault that are just falling apart. And over the years, I take a little bit out of that line item to try to restore and preserve those books. And if you ever buy the office, we should get it back in the next few weeks, rebound. Stop by and check out that book. I've also got it posted online. We scanned it in and have it posted. You can access it through our website. That's one of the first books that we posted online for the public to be able to view. But interesting thing there that ties into printing and binding. I reviewed the chairman's proposed figures in there, and I think that we can live with that. Everything's going up, as you know. Postage has went up again, and we've always done our very best. I think we have remained within the approved budget, and we'll continue to strive to always do that. But with the employees, I do want to advocate for an increase in their pay. And the reason why, and I can only attest to the ladies in the probate court. Madison County's got some great employees across the board in each and every office. But in the probate court, just to give you, my reasoning why I want them to have a little bit more is because I definitely want to retain them. They're very good with the public. As elected officials, you guys know that you're going to end up making some folks mad. Well, I'm still in those ladies. It's their job. Part of their job description is to make sure people come through those doors. You attend to them and attend to them with a smile. Make sure they go away, feel like you've at least tried to help them with a friendly attitude and a customer-oriented, demeanor, because they know that if they let someone go out of that office mad or feeling like they haven't been at least tried to be helped, then that reflects bad on me. And if it reflects bad on me, it reflects bad on the county as a whole, all the county employees as a whole. Anyway, long story short, the ladies in the probate court have to be certified in so many different areas. We're one of the very few that you can count on one hand that has each clerk certified through the Institute of Continuing Judicial Education. They're probate court certified clerks, one of a handful in the whole state of Georgia. Very proud of that fact, and I definitely want to retain them. It takes a lot of money, a lot of resources to get them trained. To get that just that certification, they had to go through a 90-hour, hard 90 hours now, schooling, and take tests and pass the test to get that certification. They've all attained it, and they also have so many other certifications. We couldn't just pick somebody right off the street, put them in that position without them having these certifications. They handle very sensitive, I call it classified material we can't release to the public when doing criminal background checks for weapons carry licenses,
they have to have specialized training just for that through the GBI and the FBI. They're all tax certified, meaning they're authorized to pull certain reports, mental health records, things like that, to do background checks on individuals that apply for a weapons carry license. There's a lot that they have to do with specialized training and certifications, and that's my reasoning for asking for the increase in pay for the employees. Again, I can live with the chairman's recommendations. I think we'll be okay. But if they keep going up on postage, I don't know. We may have to pull from another line item on that.
Now, you're talking about postage, that's where you're mailing responses out, or what?
We do. There's so much that's required, and our reasoning for postage is, just say, for instance, someone files on the state. We try to recoup a lot of that back. If someone files on the state, by law, we have to notify certain parties, heirs, beneficiaries, creditors, things like that. So a lot of times we have to do it by certified restricted mail, things like that. Also, we tried to cut back. We were going to try to make it to where we could have people who apply for weapons carry licenses come back in the office to pick them up. We still afford them that opportunity, rather than mailing it, because we've had some issues with the mail. I'm sure you're all aware. But a lot of people still want us to mail it. And of course, with their application fee, they still technically pay for it, and we turn the money back over to the county. But there's a lot. We have significant mail outs every week that we have to mail out.
And so because you're mailing stuff back out, and I guess it's required by law that it's got to be in a paper form or whatever, you can't do online stuff. And
actually, we have probate court rules that we have to go by. That's mandated by the Supreme Court. Part of that is part of the changes that they made. They've just come out with electronic filings and things like that. So yes, we can do some electronic mail outs, if you will, in certain occasions, but
it's not for most of them.
Right, most of them are hard mail.
But I guess are we taking advantage of some of that online stuff as they approve it, or do we have the capabilities to do that?
Yes. Matter of fact, they weren't going to roll it out for the probate. Most of the probate courts are not on it. Madison County is. Attorneys can e-file. We have our vendor that we use. We're set up. We're rolling with it right now. Someone can e-file right now. Makes it very convenient and easy, especially for attorneys that are doing filings. Yeah, sure are.
I'm a curiosity question. What seems to be the, I'm going to say discrepancy or the odd numbers on the pension? It seems like
I noticed that too.
Well, I'll tell you why, because I think last year I may have kind of messed that up because I was using a form from previous years where she had her rates in there, but then this year that is pulled directly from the from ACCG's census report of which employees are eligible for that and their years of service. So it's broken down exactly the way ACCG has it in the census report this year, because I was able to get my hands on that census report. That's why. Because I kept looking at it last year thinking, man, that's big. But then when I went back and looked, a lot of that is because, staff has changed. It's all rotating. You've had some that's going out and retired, some that's termed. It's just ever changing. And so this year's when I was actually able to get my hands on the actual census report to be able to come up with the correct numbers instead of using just the percentages that Kathy had. Because last year I had no idea that existed. I was using her form, so that's why. And most of your employees have been there.
They have. I certainly want to retain them and reward them for their
They've been there, they're vested. So that's why.
What becomes the dollars that we invest in employees that then do not become vested? They will stay here for 5 years.
So if they, well, they're not eligible, they have to have three years, 5 years. So once they become vested in the actual pension part of it, it remains there for them, and they actually can draw that at their retirement age, I believe is how it's worded. But they're not even vested till they put 5 full years in.
Well, we're making contributions to them.
We make contributions,
So what
but we
occurs-
only make contributions based on the current staff each year.
But to answer your question, yes, there's an overage. Every year, we get to look at, we meet with ACCG online, they're like, this is what you must have, this is the percent of your overage, this is what we recommend you do to reinvest that money. And that is used, it's almost like a cushion for when you have, each year you have obviously different amounts of people that retire and at different rates, depending on their last 5 years of employment. So we've always rolled it. Did we roll it all last year or this year?
Last year was the first year we actually used some of our credits
Yeah.
to reduce our cost.
Yes, so you
Because
have that
we were
option, you can
short
reduce your
in the
cost
budget.
each year.
So it's not always get rolled back in the general fund?
No.
No,
So it's in that
it's in that,
Yeah.
in that ACCG fund is where that remains.
And if I could just briefly touch on one point y'all were making earlier with Judge Patton and all, about the courtrooms. I'll give you an example. Yesterday, I had a hearing on the state matter, which took a little bit of time, but when I finished that hearing in the courtroom there beside probate court, I came back into the office and met with Jill and the other staff in the office and went over a few things about that estate. But when I sat down at the computer and started working on an order, a Superior Court judge came through the courtroom door, and this was in our little office, came in the door and said, I need to borrow your office for a few minutes. And this is talking about if you've ever been in the back part where Jill and I are at, which we have no problem with. But it's becoming more and more common when we're in there trying to work. Either one of the other judges that's in that courtroom, because there's no chambers there for a judge to actually get away from the people in the courtroom and talk to maybe 2 or 3 attorneys that's involved in the case privately outside of the court reporter or outside of the ears of the people in the courtroom. They'll come right up on our office. Do y'all mind getting out for a few minutes and letting us use your office? And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Well, we're also the only courthouse in our circuit that does not have a resident judge.
And that's true. This is true.
Funny how I know that, isn't it?
See, it is funny how you know that.
There's also, and to compound our issues with lack of space, there's also been many discussions regarding the Second Superior Court courtroom here to expedite the backlog of cases that we have, which is 3 to 5 years behind that.
Yeah, probably more, I would say. It's very
COVID
fine.
was a disaster for the Superior Court system in the state of Georgia.
Yeah.
Not just,
That's right.
Well, I think all
That's
that's
right. Everyone.
But even just simple things are so tied up in court. I mean, it's just like mine. I mean, right now, we've been dealing with a child custody case that should have been handled within 30 to 60 days, and it started in January, and there's still no resolve because we can't get back into the court. I mean, it's dumb things like that.
Well, I'll say this, the probate court in Madison County is very efficient, and we move cases, I promise you. We do. We don't sit on anything. We have them moving. But most of the reasoning to bring that to your attention is, in the future, it may not be a bad idea to brainstorm solutions on how to maybe get another courtroom, or maybe like Franklin County, they've got a magistrate probate annex that houses just probate and magistrate, and they share a courtroom, which,
Okay, well, I appreciate you and David and the Superior Court folks all would get together and see if there's a way within these walls currently. Let's assume we have an empty building. see if there's a way within these walls that we can accommodate efficiently the needs of all three of the courts. Keeping in mind, obviously, we're not talking about displacing anybody, but security needs for the court system are different from what they are for the rest. So if we could take the tag and tax office and put them somewhere where public traffic is easier, and it also didn't crossways continuously with the court system. And I was sitting here penciling planning and zoning. I know they have a lot of traffic in and out of there. So if there's a way to keep those from intersecting, but again, if y'all would present us an idea or a concept, again, assuming you have an empty building, and let us know what y'all think a plan would be. That anyway, we think big picture, that certainly would help us to hopefully get some of this resolved.
Definitely. We can certainly come up with some things. I know it's a dream. I know.
Well, we have to start with the knowledge of what our needs are.
That's right.
What our needs are, and then what facilities we have in-house to potentially handle them, or we look at it having to do some kind of construction or something. When's our next meeting, Christine? Last Monday this month, if y'all got it. Seriously.
Yeah, be glad to do that. Yeah, just see what we can do.
It doesn't necessarily have to be one of our commission meetings where we sit out here and work session.
Yeah, right.
And show us here's what the needs are, and here's how we think we can solve them in-house.
Appreciate you.
Hey, appreciate y'all. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
And do so without spending any money.
We have, talked about the property, there's some property down behind this courthouse, it was for sale at one time. Undeveloped back there. Yeah, to purchase for annex buildings. We had talked about senior center stuff, gym. That was my recommendation when we first started talking about that a few years ago.
Yeah. Bind everything over to arbitration, we set the circus tent up on asphalt. And you have to start at 8.
Kind of like a circus anywhere.
If you have to start at 8 in July, then you can't leave until you're done.
Yeah.
We'll set a lot of cases.
Yeah.
But that's just my thing. I don't know if the judge would like it.
Now, I figured the judge would just call it, there'll be some excuse that they can't pull that off.
Anyway, moving on.
You just think there's gotta be a way to get caught that thing.
The fun time crowd, what y'all got?
Bucks near as tough as they used to.
You want me first? My next. Well, I'm not Avery.
I'd already ascertained that.
But
Is she okay?
she is, she had what we hope is her last surgery this past Monday was a skin graft. And, if you've ever dealt with skin grafts, they hurt. Not where the graft was put, but where it came from. But she's doing well. And, she asked me several things. One is to thank you commissioners for your support for the senior center and the efforts that we've had, the efforts that you make to manage our county's needs and resources every year. It's always nice to be towards the end of this because you get to hear that you're not the only one in the same boat. She also did ask that I express her appreciation for your support as she's recovered from, a pretty devastating accident. She acknowledges it's been a long process, but hopefully the end is in sight. Our 130 active seniors and 45 home-delivered meal clients have not missed anything throughout this unexpected time, and we have to credit that to the staff that's pulled together and said, no, we don't know how to do it, but we'll learn it and do it anyway.
How many meal folks rated?
45. And it varies depending on who's in the hospital which day. Another thing is we as the staff made a concerted effort to properly classify expenses and revenues. That was a real priority. And can't say enough thank yous to Susan and her staff for the support and their guidance as we tackle this. To say that we didn't have a whole lot of records to build from is a little bit of an understatement. So you'll see on the budget some of the shifts that were made in the line items. We are moving towards more on-site meals where we actually cook the meal on site and getting away from what our seniors refer to as the TV dinner. That's helped increase our numbers. We're also beginning to get volunteers who have stretched our staffing dollars. We have retired occupational therapists who knocked on the door and said, could y'all use somebody to teach chair yoga a couple of days a week? And it's like, where do you sign? We'll take you right now. Tomorrow's okay. The Senior Center Advisory Council is a small group. We're looking for more members, but they've stepped up with helping with some fundraisers, and being a not-for-profit, they've been able to tap into some resources that we probably wouldn't have been able to tap into through the county government. And of course, our biggest plan for the end of this year, which will reflect, I bring this up because it reflects in the money we haven't generated yet, it's coming down the pipe, is the murder mystery dinner that we've done several years. The return on investment, when you look at staff time and how much the troop cost, how much the dinner cost, how much the decorations cost, what did you actually clear on that event? And after getting all those numbers pulled out of the budget, it was like probably not enough to justify the staff time that it would take to pull it off. And I personally say I'm glad, because I'd hate to have to do it right now with Emory out. But instead, the advisory council is working with us on a joint bingo night. We did this last year as the advisory council to raise money for the plants. And we were totally surprised that we sold out the space we had in the building, and we didn't call the fire marshal to tell him that we were over a few. So we're looking at a bigger venue, a bigger event for the county as a joint effort between both the staff and the advisory council to be able to fill in some of the gaps.
I think that's a wise decision. I was at bingo night, and it looked like it did really well.
It got a little crowded.
Yeah, it did.
But it was good chili.
It was.
And good weather. With that said, I guess I could go line by line and item by item and explain, but maybe the more efficient way is if you have questions about specific things, I can answer them, and Susan hopefully can help me out. In looking at this and talking with Ambria, we're pleased with the chairman's budget. We know that there's always going to have to be shifting. I sit back here like you guys, wearing my taxpayer's hat and looking at, how big a check will I need to write versus the needs we have at the center. So, with that said, we feel like this is a pretty realistic, attainable budget. There are some things that we have in works for the end of this year. We've submitted a $36,000 request to Francis Wood Wilson to finish out what we call the art barn. We should hear from that hopefully in October. Those kinds of things are hard to put in the budget because you ask for the money, you may get it, you may not. We also are asking Jackson Electric Foundation, thanks Christina for helping with that adventure, for money to renovate the kitchen. One, because it needs desperately to be upgraded, and two, there's some things that really have to be done in order to fully move to cook on site. So we're hoping to have that in this current year's budget.
You mentioned the meal and the cooking and now the kitchen. I thought we contracted out for all the meals now.
We do, and that's why I say they're lovingly referred to as TV dinners.
So you're thinking about getting away from that?
Getting away from that. The beauty of that is the reimbursement is figured on staff time and cost. Whether or not we're controlling the staff and the cost, or whether it's a contract that's doing it, we will still be able to get the reimbursement that we're getting. The difference is, if you look at the posted menu and you look at the number of people who eat every day, now, there's a running joke at the senior center right now. It's called, "What gravy is put on the chicken thigh today?" I mean, literally, every day, there is a chicken thigh. That, you know, we didn't know there were that many ways to put sauce on a chicken thigh, but we finally have.
But about 2 years ago, we changed the company we were purchasing the food from, and it has gotten better.
It has improved, yes. We now actually have a well-cooked chicken thigh with gravy.
Yeah.
How many citizens, yes, clients, do y'all have a day in-house, and how many, 40, 50 on Meals on Wheels?
Yeah.
Well, once or twice a week?
Meals on Wheels
Yeah.
hot meals are delivered almost every day. The change would be if for some reason you cannot deliver a hot meal. We don't have the volunteers, we don't have the staff. Then we make sure they get a meal the day before, which is the frozen TV dinner, that they can put in their refrigerator and have a meal. Same thing through holidays.
40 or 50 of those a day.
Every day.
How many people in-house are at the facility?
Depends on the day, depends on the activity. Yesterday, we fed 54 people on site. It was bingo day, and the meal was good. Today, we probably will feed, and I left as the buses were coming in, looks like about 35. There are days when people come in and look at what's on the menu and decide, okay, we'll pass on the mystery meat. Think some of your elementary school adventures. Some of them are pretty interesting. There's just not a good way that you can cook broccoli at 5 o'clock in the morning, put it in a tray, bring it from Conyers to Danielsville, put it on a hot table, and serve it at 11:30 and have anything but broccoli mush. And people, they just don't stick around for those days.
We still aren't able to accommodate people who are mobility challenged, though, confined to wheelchairs and things like that, correct?
Wheelchairs are a problem because the center itself is pretty challenging. We have 4 right now that are on various assisted walking devices, rollators, cane. We got a whole bunch of canes, but quad canes and special canes, and we welcome those. We have
But our vans and transport aren't set up to
do
wheelchairs
wheelchairs.
with people who.
They have to be able, with limited assistance. I mean, we get off the vans and we help and we make sure nobody falls. But wheelchairs, we do not have a way to transport wheelchairs.
Look, just to ask the question, and I know you've heard us commiserate this morning about the things we don't have, is that lack of service the norm? Like if I were to go to the Athens Council on Aging down there at the old train station, would that be what I would see there also?
Council on Aging, one has adult day rehab. And they are funded for an adult day rehab, an adult daycare center. So they do take wheelchairs without any problem. In their regular program, they have the advantage of the Athens Transit. to transport their wheelchair patients, wheelchair participants. Oglethorpe, they're very much like we are. They have a couple of ladies that if they come to our center, will come through the door in a wheelchair because they know they can get in, but they get off and on the bus just like our folks do. And we have the ability to put a wheelchair. In fact, we have a wheelchair that we try to take with us when we go on trips, so that if somebody hits that point of, I really didn't realize we were walking this far, we've got that covered.
I have noticed increasingly minibus or type thing, and there may be more than one, and that's why I'm seeing more of it, that says Elbert County Transport of. Is that a private company, or is this something Elbert County's doing that's servicing Madison County?
It is servicing Madison County without going into a whole lot of county government history from the 80s, which I was in the middle of this with those of you that are old enough to remember Clint Lane, working at the APDC. There was a time when senior centers had two different versions of buses. They had the Department of Human Resources buses, and they had the DOT buses, the 16B2. And there was a point when Human Resources says, we're going to get out of the 16B2 demand transportation. Counties were given a choice. You can go one way or the other way or both ways. Elbert County, and I will say thank heaven sometimes for Elbert County, opted to keep their DOT buses. So they service Madison County, and when we get a call that says we need somebody to do transportation, and it's particularly good on that Comer-Carlton side, we give them the number. They call and make the arrangements through the Elbert County Transport to pick up our folks. Its cost varies between $2 and $12 one way, but it is a service that Elbert County provides to the citizens of Madison County.
And they've actually come through in District 4 through, over across the river and stuff like that, because they come back around off of 72, so they do pick up people over there and bring them to Madison County.
Yeah.
Looking at our demographics of the county, currently we're serving, it would appear to me that we are underserving a significant portion of our population. Is that because we maxed out on what the senior center can do, or is it we're not getting the word out of what we have available?
It's a combination. We're not maxed out on what the senior center can do. We could transport more people, we could serve more people with not a whole lot of increased costs. Getting the word out, and Commissioner Adams, if you'll allow me to be a little personal, there are people like me, like Debbie, like Linda Kay, that have a whole lot of activities that they're involved in, even though they're retired. They're what we say, they're not, quote, ready yet to give up their volunteer work to be a regular participant. Where we have the opportunity is things like our exercise program. That's a growing program that when you open at 7:30 in the morning and you've got 5, 6, 7 people coming in to work out, then they leave and go do their stuff. I think our opportunity is we're limited by not offering afternoon activities. The after-work activities are those things that we might be more inclined, if we're still doing a little volunteer work, to participate in. And that's a plan. You know, Amber is very, Todd, when she was interviewed, was very, we want to grow this program to meet more needs. And that's the direction that it, I think, will have to go to get us grandmas that spend a whole lot of time at the ball field and spend a whole lot of time transporting kids to come over and eat lunch. And that's one of the goals of being able to cook on site, is to have something that would bring folks into the center other than a TV dinner.
I guess my last question would be, if we shake down the winnings off the folks that went up to Cherokee and give it back to the senior center. I was thrilled to see that. I mean,
Let's say, to put it mildly, that's the first time that in a number of years that we had made that adventure. Trips like that are a balancing act. And without calling names, you've got those that are perfectly capable of walking into the casino and being told to be back at a certain place at 1:30 and being there with their winnings and smiles on their faces. And then you've got those like me that are going, where's the restroom and where do we eat? Because that was my first time. And then we've got those that require a little more hands-on. So we as staff have to say, okay, we've got this many that we don't have to worry about, but who's going to take Susie and Joe and Tom and make sure they get to the restroom, that they get fed, that they have a good time. So that's a learning curve for all of us. And being able to do that, those who went, despite a few obstacles, I think had a really good time. We've talked with how can we make transportation work a little better. The buses are comfortable. There are some folks that riding 2.5 hours on a transit van. So we've learned to build in stops, and we're getting better at it.
Susan, one question on our paperwork here. What is the change in, we had the expenses returned, or they're on the revenues offset. We had to have nothing there, and then now we get to show negatives. I assume that's just an accounting deal.
Which?
Are you talking about in the revenues where it says less expense revenue offset?
Yes.
Okay, so anything that's highlighted in purple, that offsets with the state funds that the center receives from the state, and or it could be, most all of theirs does.
Yeah.
And you'll see in the expenses below the purple, those offset in some way with either some type of revenue.
What I'm seeing, I'm not understanding, so for 22, 23, 24, we're showing a revenue in excess of $200,000 down to 28,000 this year, and then 10,000, 3,000, 3,000.
Okay, because in the prior, like in 24, 23, and 22, we weren't offsetting. We weren't showing y'all those offsets. We started doing that last year.
It's accounting.
Yeah.
Nothing
For,
significant
yeah,
changed.
yeah, it's just how we're showing you how it offsets to say, so when you look on those revenues this time, and it says $3,400, that $3,400 is revenue that the center is taking in that is like from their pavilion rentals and their miscellaneous income where they get donations, that kind of thing, that is extra income that's not already accounted for with this expense. We're telling you exactly how we're spending that money.
What's the one of the questions I had was, for the second line item of revenue, state funds. We've got the actual, well, we've got several years of history that are kind of
Right.
different, and then there's an actual number, and then what was anticipated this year versus what's being proposed for next year is like $32K. What's?
So that number comes from the aging council. If you look back here, I think I submitted these papers. These papers is what the aging council sent to the center that says, this is your funding this year.
So the number that there is the 180, 950, we have from the state saying this is what you're going to receive already.
That's what we claim, yes. That's what they've allotted. And one reason it's different from 2025, the drastic is, in 2025, there was ARPA money that they were receiving also, and now there will be no more in '26. They have expended that.
And Commissioner, also, one of the budgeting nightmares, thank heavens for Susan, is that the county budget runs January to December. The state runs from July, so you've got to try to figure out half of this money and half of that money, and we don't know. And if we knew what the feds were gonna do in October, it gets to be a nightmare.
It's a little tricky there, trying to.
Other things.
Thank you, ma'am.
Well, I got one last thing that I do want to let you know, that our seniors are very much aware. As I was walking out the door, they said, be sure to tell them we know, that they know there's an upcoming SPLOST budget. And they understand that they can be a voice for what's going on. And they're pretty excited that, the senior center was even looked at for the SPLOST budget. So I wanted you to know that. The other thing is, we realize the piece that's missing in this is the building and maintenance budget. And that's gonna come up a little bit later, but they asked me to do one thing specifically, and if the picture's worth 1,000 words, I put it in pictures. There will be some requests for some repair work that's somewhat long overdue. Just like folks have said before us, the Madison County way has been build it, and when it falls apart, we'll figure out what to do with it. There's some pretty serious issues with the ceiling, the air conditioning has been a problem, and I know Paul we've talked with him about it. He's been really involved in how can we get through with some of the problems until it can be remedied. But again, they were asking that we be sure to let you know that when Paul's talking about some of the things that are needed, that they're needed. So, but those pictures were made last night. That's sort of what we're facing.
Thank you, ma'am.
Kristen, did you get a copy?
Yeah,
You want that?
Too much.
One extra.
Holiday day. Yes, ma'am.
Next.
Shirley, how are you doing?
All right, how are y'all? I always seem to be the last one at everything.
Here's what you highlight.
So really just, Susan and I have been through the budget quite a few times. We've cut a lot of things. We've also tried to make things more manageable. Biggest thing, so in wages, you'll see there's an assistant director position. There's a wage there now. It is, after discussion with the chairman, I originally asked for the assistant director position and an athletic operations manager role. We already have a program operations role, but after further discussion, we've decided to not do the athletic operations manager role and actually basically, I guess, promote, move our program operations manager into an assistant director role. They are already doing that role, essentially. They are just not getting paid, compensated for that. So that is the wage that is in that line item for assistant director. In the regular wages, there's no longer a program operations manager there. So funds just kind of got moved to a different line item.
So does that, your request was for 2 people, so by doing that, do you cover the activities that the 2 people are gonna do with that one person?
It's currently where we're already at. It was just helping out, basically. I don't have an assistant director, so when I'm not in the office, the person who has been there long, essentially, Holly, is the one that gets tasked with everything on top of her normal duties. So essentially, we're just moving her into having that title and a pay rate.
So it doesn't really change?
So it doesn't really change
Okay.
anything. So it's, again, just moving that wage to a different line item, and then with the wages, and what the requested column is with the 3% increase. So, any questions on that? Okay. The next thing, you'll see internet service. We basically had zero there. This time we are asking for $3,600 in that line item. This is to run internet service to Diamond Hill and Mize so that we can get the cameras that are there attached to the county server. Right now they are not, so they are on a loop. So once, a week or two goes by, then they roll over themselves. So we cannot access anything from that. This would give us the opportunity to have them on the server with the rest of the cameras that the county has. So we also, currently at Diamond Hill, with the concession stand, we use a hotspot, so it would get rid of the hotspot, and then the internet service would be there for that. Under training, originally, sorry, Susan, really little, 3561 is what Susan had on there as requested. I'm actually changing that to 2981 being requested. That is an amount, so we were able to kind of work things out a little bit as far as planning goes. This amount could be lower, as well as the education and training could be lower. There are scholarships that we can apply throughout GRPA and Leisure Careers Foundation that could potentially help offset those costs. But we wanted to, that would be the amount if we were not able to get the scholarships. So we need to budget and plan for that in case it does not happen. But typically it does happen that we are able to get scholarships to help go towards that.
I want to go back to the internet. Is that, do you anticipate that being a new annual budget line item, or is that a capital expense just to get them hooked up or connected?
It'll be an annual line item, because basically it's the cost of paying the internet bill to Windstream or Charter or whoever's available there.
Good.
And these figures are based off of, Susan and I went through, so it's based off of Charter at about $150 a month.
I'm not absolutely positive which is there. We're hoping Charter is there.
Thomas is looking into that for us, trying to figure that out.
Charter is much faster and usually much cheaper.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, moving on down. The other item that I had was the athletic uniforms line item. That was with that bid proposal. You asked for me to go back to the rec board and speak with the rec board, as well as getting additional quotes, in which I did do. And after presenting that to the rec board, going through, they would like to go with Shuma Sports for that. Shuma has actually, originally they did a $1,500 rebate. Instead of that, they have come back to continue what we currently have, which is a 5% rebate off of everything that we spend with them. So,
with the exception of All-Stars, all that's covered fees, right?
That's correct. So, and you'll see that number, this year we actually budgeted for $100,000, and next year that number is at $91,000 for that.
You spent $91,000 on uniforms for All-Stars.
No, $91,000. That's for uniforms. That's for the entire year. That's regular season and All-Stars.
So what is the portion of it that we actually spend? So both of that, I'm
so roughly, so this is based off of, again, what we currently offer. So about $74,000 is offset by registration fees.
So Susan, that expenses, revenue offsets, that's including all your fees from the sport registrations
Are you looking at the back sheet, is that what you're looking at?
on the second page.
Yes, the less revenue, the expense revenue offset, yes. That's what that number is again. And then behind your second page, you've got these little breakdowns like we did last year to try to help show you how the offsets work.
Essentially what we have. For the most part, again, our budget is very similar to what our budget is this year. You can see down at the bottom, there's about a $33,000 difference between what was budgeted this year and what's budgeted next year. And majority, if not all of that, is just in wages. Questions?
On a different note, I know Christine and some other staff members might be reaching out to you if they haven't, but, we had another presentation the other day from ESP. And one of the things I'm trying to get a handle on, is what type of services like that are we getting or not? What requests are we getting for services like that so we can balance possibly if, again, I've got nothing with ESP, I think it's a wonderful program. I'm just the curiosity in trying to define if we have a lot of those requests or are they once in a blue moon, trying to balance that versus the request that they had.
Right.
You know, is it better to say, oh, here's X dollars for contracted services, or is it better to say, we have one or two that may come per year that, you know, that can't participate in the program that you have, and it would behoove us to say, we'll just budget a smaller line item to say, hey, if somebody comes and we can't serve that, we'll pay for that person, or say your camp's $200 and they need to go to that camp for $1,000.
Right.
We may cover the $800.
Gotcha.
And it may be more beneficial and more appropriate for the taxpayer. I mean, and I'm not really expecting an answer today, but just think those are some of the questions that may come.
I do know from previous seasons and everything, there's one or two that we may get. Most of those children are highly autistic, so us being able to offer programs for that, sports-wise or anything, but it is a very limited number that we actually receive any calls from. Those couple individuals I know personally, so that's how I come to learn about that.
But we do provide that option and service if they are approached the rec department.
Yes. So in the past, we have had through T-ball, we have a family who has a deaf son, and they've coached, and he's been able to participate. He no longer participates anymore, just because he's older now and everything, and he's not really into sports. But we do offer that. We try to, if anybody calls, that see what can we do. And a lot of times those parents are willing to step up and help with the team to make it happen. So. Any other questions?
Sure, it's not gonna be a big deal to anticipate revenue from concession stands that show up, or just let that off the way to see.
Well, it's there, but it's different. It looks different. So let me get
Yeah, it's there. It's not as much because of the concessionaire. With the concessionaire, I'm not exactly sure how to kind of estimate that. With our numbers, I know how to estimate that, but with the concessionaire, I'm not exactly sure. But you will see, like with our concessions, our biggest impact is staffing that. So with being able to, again, with our contract with them, they're gonna run 2 concession stands. If they're able to do more, that's great, that lessens our costs. So that you'll see that revenue number, actually be more instead of the expenses.
So are you going to attempt to have the other concession stands open here?
Yes, sir.
So that's why there was a reduction in your part-time staff?
Correct, yes, sir. Yeah, there was a small reduction in the part-time staff, but not as much, because we still plan to open the concession stand that the concessionaire is not running. So that's why that is still in there. But it's our hope that eventually we can get completely away from that
And
only have revenue.
you're still around 1,400 people that you,
Oh, yes. So, I didn't do quick math. I wrote down all the number of teams we have. Obviously, our fall sports are a little bit lower this year than, well, on the softball side, it's a little lower. We've had 3 more softball teams start this fall, so that's taken some of the softball numbers. In the fall, our numbers are normally lower anyway, because players who play baseball in the spring are playing football in the fall, or they're doing, other players, instead of doing soccer or volleyball, they're doing cheerleading. So, but our number of participants is still staying around that 1,200 to 1,400 range. So. Any other questions?
Is that per year?
yeah.
Yes.
But
Is that unduplicated?
some of those are,
Some of those are duplicated, because
Okay.
those who play in the spring also do play in the fall still. So it is duplicated, but it's just the overall number of participants.
but for census purposes, it makes us look better to all the way around.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
All right, moving to number 8, statement from Mark from Commissioner.
Where, I guess my question, to Susan, would be, I've heard the number several times that we have a 1.8 million shortfall.
Yeah.
So,
We're working on them, I'm trying to whittle it down, and I mean, so far, these that have came in today, there's been quite a few of them that, as you heard, especially, David and Cody both were like, look, we'll tighten it down, we'll do whatever we do. They run a tight ship anyway. Shelley has made a lot of concessions. I mean, she was hoping for new programs. We slashed those. We just did not even consider that. We kept things where it's at. And we're just trying to make it, improve on what we got. I'm really truly hoping, I'm still working on some of the others that'll be coming in here on Friday. Really hoping we can slash some more.
so what's the real number? Right, today, if we had to say, today we're gonna determine what the millage rate's gonna be, it's based on this, what is the real?
If we held, right here today, if we held the rate as to last year's, we still are looking at about a 1.8 that we're looking for.
So,
Is that even with moving the Jesus Center back around?
Yeah, I put that JIPA back in, that's true, I did do that, and I didn't go back and look at that number yet, just because I hadn't. So that was like
Maybe-
437,000
Maybe a 1.3.
that I put back into the revenue.
So that is basically what we anticipate 1 meal being.
Yeah.
I mean,
1 meal.
Plus and minus,
Yep.
no significant
One meal
amount.
value,
One
this
meal.
year's 1.3.
1.3. Next year, the mill value will be 1.4.
okay, so,
But the debt, for just the annual
The
debt
budget, yeah.
for the JIPA was 437,000.
Right, but we had put that in without, the revenue from the IDA meals. That's why I sent that email the other day, is kind of were some ideas, what are y'all thinking, this is what's being requested. So she's saying she shifted that back around to the conversation. So we're really looking at a $1.3 or $1.4 million budget deficit.
So our contingency fund is the same?
No, it is not. Now,
Okay, that's
in
what I
that-
wanted to know.
In that number, last year we carried 10,000. I did draw 100,000 into that contingency line, of which we can push back down. But I did that trying to, at first, when I dropped that number in, it was because at first we knew we had, the deductible for our insurance had changed. That was the main reason I had bumped it up to start with. Which you guys did vote to go with that higher premium, which now our deductible is 5,000 occurrence, I think, instead of 10. So we can adjust that number down. I haven't went back and done that yet because I've been really busy trying to get in what we were doing today.
Now,
But
with
I
our,
think there's some numbers I still can tweak some.
the contingency though, we're well above what we are required to have, right?
You're
Talking about the reserve
Yeah,
balance.
reserve balance.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yes, we are. We are. Yes, we are. The biggest thing is just trying to balance the budget every year, so we're not pulling from those reserves.
Well, I understand that, but.
But yes, we are.
I'm saying
We're
that that is an option.
Yes, it is.
Because
But,
depending on where we're at, and does it make more sense than it does to, if you get where you have things that you cut that you really need to have in your budget.
and I'm
which is
trying really hard, Brian, not to do that. I've tried extremely hard to,
I understand that.
David,
I'm just
David
trying to
was a
understand it
prime
myself.
example, okay? His books and periodicals, he asked for 13. I'm looking at it, and I'm thinking, there's no way 13's gonna cover it, because I went back and looked at what he has ordered and gotten, and all of it's mandatory. All of it he
Yeah.
has to have it.
Yeah.
So we ended
So
up
we're
spending
gonna
over
pull it out anyway.
Exactly.
It's all how it looks, right?
Well, exactly, I'm
Yeah,
trying.
that's all it, yeah.
I'm trying to make sure that that my numbers look to what is actually happening.
But the reserves right now, the money that they're making will probably be able to pay for the 911 and EMS center out of it. So.
Well, I'm not saying, I'm just wanting to understand where we're at.
Yeah, as
it's
we-
not so dire that,
No.
we've got options if we chose to use it or if we had to use it. And
You have
I don't wanna
reserves.
all of a sudden arbitrarily cut and say, we're doing this budget, and then it seemed to the world that we're,
In a dire place?
yes.
No, we're
and
not in a
that's-
dire place.
I don't want
We
that,
have-
because that's worse,
No, I agree.
yeah.
I agree. No.
And I want to explain it when somebody comes and says, well, this is what I see in reserves, and,
Right.
and,
And then why are you? But,
yeah.
again, every year when we sit down to look at this budget, and, for me, when I sit down and look at a budget, I am trying my best to balance that budget without having to pull from those reserves every time, because your reserves is that money that there's some of that money that you've already voted on, or you have discussed verbally, that you have it earmarked in some way, in some manner. It's not to say it don't change, because it does. Sometimes things change.
So now how we earmarked it in some manner?
So we've got some that's earmarked for Hope Thompson, for the Ag Center. It was gonna be, the board had allocated money to go towards the Ag Center. We went and had some conversations with the Board of Education, and they were like, this is what we request you to do with your money. So we're widening Hope Thompson Road.
Oh, the widening of the road.
Yes,
Right.
for the entrance and exit for the,
So we're using money out of the reserves for that.
yes.
Well, I think if I recall that conversation right, the interest off the money out of the reserves would be enough to pay for Hope Thompson Road.
I don't know how much of the interest is collected.
Yeah, which is what I think the last I'd heard, we got like 600,000. 682 for some reason comes to.
Now, are you referring to the investment fund?
Yes.
So, and the investment funds, you guys are right at 900, I mean, we're right at $1 million sitting in there that we haven't touched yet.
Yeah, well, like I say, for some reason, interest-wise, at that time, was like 682.
Okay, and that's
numbers
right.
stick in my head because I like
and it
numbers,
probably was.
particularly large dollar numbers.
Right.
And,
So another amount of money that was allocated, earmarked out of that is the 450, close to 500,000 for the Mike Collins Comer Beanville project.
yes, the shared cost on it.
Yes.
But what I guess for me personally, we at some point, whether it's the sitting board or the next board or the one after that, is going to have to recognize that the only avenue that we have to fund projects that have been alluded to today, a jail, 911 center, upgrading 911, on and on and on, an annex for the courthouse, or looking at a relocated health department, an expanded senior citizen center, relocating the road department, expanding the rec department, and perhaps centralizing services there. At some point, someone's going to have to look at proposing a 30-year or thereabouts bond program for this county. It's the only way, because we're a poor county, it's the only way that can be funded. There's not going to be anything just happen somewhere in this county that's going to be a windfall for tax revenue for us. That's not the world we live in. And in order to even be marketable in the bond market, if we're going to ask for $50 to $100 million, which I don't think is an unrealistic amount of money to put on the table, we're going to have this $10, $15 million reserve on hand.
Yep.
I mean, we're not going to be able to peddle the bonds if we don't.
Right.
And I know that well before any of us sat at the table here, this county spent down our reserves
Well, I know.
to the point that we were lucky that they didn't come cut the lights off.
So what do we actually share? I know we got the 10 million that we got invested, but how much in reserves do we actually show as reserves?
And I was asking this question a few weeks ago when I fiddled around. In order for us to arrive at what we think is the best solution to get us through here and to get us to where Denny's talking to, we need a good clear picture of what all these dollars are and where they are.
Okay. And I agree with
So
that.
I've asked questions about, the funds that are no longer called ARPA funds that we had the work session about. And these are what we've already spent, these are what we have committed, and the rest of these are ideas. So what are those dollars there? Right. What are our reserves today? What is the appropriate amount of reserves to consider untouchable?
Right.
What is our carryover funds going to look like at the end of this year? And with the knowledge of what all the real total financial picture is, then I think we're going to come up with a good solution to get us past this year and move us toward what Denny and Derek have been talking about.
Right.
Are we looking at a positive fund balance this year?
Yes.
Well, I think
Even with the negative.
I do believe we will, yes. I do believe we will, because
That's well, I agree with that,
I just need to
trying to
look at
understand it, because I surely don't.
But,
We haven't been given a picture of it.
We
I think
ain't been given the information, really.
Right, that's right.
All right, I missed it. I mean,
You hadn't,
I think something that would, I'll say helpful to me.
Okay.
There's government financing, practical procedures, and I get all that. And I think a lot of that sometimes just gets rolled up under what the terminology of fund balance would be.
Yes.
I'm gonna break it down to Derek Doctor's household. Here is the untouchable emergency fund, light critical. We were not going below that unless, Lord calls us home.
Right.
That money is untouchable. Here is the ARP money that we received. We managed to, via legal purposes, washed it and said, okay, here's, we can spend this money. We know we want to do some things out of it, but here's the balance of it that we have not committed.
Right.
If it's X dollars, all right, here's money that says, here's another checking account or savings account that says, we've got $10 million, or $5 million, whatever it is.
Right.
And out of that, we earmarked $1 million to the road project. We earmarked $500,000, so there's $8.5 million left of, I don't want to call it slush fund because it's not, but
Right.
it's just money to be programmed. So we can look at it and say, okay, we're not touching this. And I think the state says, what, 2 months worth of expense?
It's usually, it'd say about 3 months.
That scares me to death.
Yeah.
I hate the 2 months. I hate the 2
I'm
months.
happier at 6.
I like the 4 month rule. I mean, and again, you get to 6 and people start,
I know they do, but
But
I
like the 4 months.
Something's gonna happen.
I like the 4 month rule, just because that's 25%, and if something happens, that's a quarter way through it, and you can usually
Figure something
figure,
out.
you get on, say, fire sale, whatever. So I think seeing that separate rated in a manner, because I think some of the information you sent last time was like, whether it was restricted funds, unrestricted funds, there's probably precedent for that language in your office,
Right.
but at this table, it's hard to understand, or at least for
You
me.
to understand. We can fix that, because I was gonna say, I did give you guys all the numbers that I had, and even after doing that, I think we did realize there was one project that somehow we,
We understand because this is how Todd talks to us. He's like, I don't know what you just said, how much money we have. And I'm like, but yeah,
I mean, we
fund
do
balance,
get it.
restricted, all that,
Yeah.
is different terminology.
so, and the answer is, we're good, we have revenue, we have reserved revenue, we are good. Some of that you guys have earmarked, some of it, what you voted on that I knew about, I put on that list. There was something, and I really can't remember what it was off the top of my head, that came up during discussion with Todd, and I looked at him, I said, you didn't tell me, nobody told me that, because I didn't have that on this list.
Well, let me give you, for me personally, an example of this. This is, we've had 3 or 4 instances over the past 3 or 4 months where effectively county government was shut down here because we didn't have a generator that was reliable enough to keep the doors open and the lights on. Okay.
No, I agree.
Then in that conversation, out of the blue come this, well, it'll cost $300,000 to do a generator that will facilitate not just having the emergency lights on, but keeping the doors open and the lights on.
Yep.
To the best of my knowledge, in my 4.5 years here, that conversation never took place at this table.
Ever.
But if we have a capital project that is like that, we are here as the government to provide governance and services to the public. Well, if you gotta put out something on Facebook saying, we're closed today because we don't have power at the courthouse because the generator didn't come on, that's the wrong answer.
I agree with that.
Well,
I disagree with you.
That's what that email came from me, in my desk, in my frustrations, in my desk. It come from staff coming to us, we need to do this, we need to do that, where's the money for this, how do we do that? 911 is down, and that was my frustration. We are the county government. What do you mean 911 is down because we have a backup generator that failed? No, we're not doing that.
That's the whole idea of a backup generator.
And we look stupid, and other people call it out, that's not from Madison County.
So to explain that situation a little bit, we have a backup generator here that backs up our server room, our phone lines, and our internet system and emergency lights. That generator, when we did all the fiber connections, we ran 911's fiber to this building. That's how we connected them together. So that generator had failed. We had been patching it, fixing it, patching it. We had 2 generators. Hurricane Helene took one out. The second one finally caught on fire or something other. So I had made the decision, yes, let's go fix the $8,000, let's fix it. The generator's 12 to 20 years old. We couldn't figure out the age of the current one. So during Hurricane Helene, we have a emergency prepared plan that's like 200-something page plan that we put together with GEMA. It's one of those plans, when you get a big storm, if you've got something listed in that plan, then when the storm happens, you have those issues, you can kind of file for grant money. So Helene hit, obviously there's all kinds of stuff that happened, all kinds of tools we used or needed, whatever. So Bobby applied for the generator and some other tools. There was some verbiage that GEMA recommended to use, but FEMA has denied it. So I think we applied for close to $300,000, but Bobby says it looks like it's going to be around $110 that we're going to get back for that grant. But he's going to appeal it and resubmit it for the generator. The final cost for the generator is around $280,000. That is a generator to run this entire building when the power goes out. So the last time we lost power here, it had just rained. We didn't have no wind, we didn't have a storm, it was just some heavy rain. And that was...
What is the conversation with Georgia Power Bill?
We have had a lot of conversations with Georgia Power.
This is not acceptable.
And that has been our...
The school goes out over there.
Well, we had told them, here we are in July, and we've lost power 7 times.
Yeah.
We've had to... People have went on back to work, and the courthouse is closed because we can't get power here.
So we're not talking to the right people at Georgia Power? I mean, I'm not trying to be critical, I'm just like.
The Board of Education has had the problem with it, the schools over there,
Yeah.
everything goes
I
out.
do think part of this is a Georgia Power issue. I
No
think they have a grid problem.
Yeah,
They really need to get top of, and
So
I've said that.
after this last storm, I don't know exactly who Todd spoke to, but he said, we've got to do some of our infrastructure, we've got to put it under the ground, we can't do this anymore. So it's probably to the point now where collectively as the board as a whole to approach, for me to figure out who it is, we need to approach at Georgia Power and say we've got a problem that needs to be fixed. But I know Todd is on, he's on the phone, he calls everybody at Georgia Power that he knows that works there.
Well, we need to change who we're talking to.
Yeah, I suggest this in the email, it's time for us to go to the Public Service Commission.
Yeah.
And right now, there's an election going on, people will get some things done to make sure that they can conscious view about it. There's no way that anybody else is having the degree of outages that we have here.
Yeah.
It's just,
I will tell you, Franklin County has been experiencing some of the same.
Well, my point is, I think I'm confident with the election delegation that we have, the PSC election that's going on, a certain person that works in the big gold building that has property in this county, that, I think we can make enough references to somebody from the glass tower in Atlanta will be here.
great.
Yeah.
Or they need to be paying for our backup generators and the same for every grocery store that has to throw away stuff because their freezers go down.
But the pharmacy
And I said that.
can't be open.
That the dump their
I
drugs.
know that it would be
I realize that's
possible.
an issue, but I'm going back to having all this in this big picture and where we need to go, with 50, 60 million, wherever we need to go. But things like power, and for example, if we're gonna put a lot of services out there, and end up building it, we need the right people and be thinking about it. And it's not just what's today, what's tomorrow, or what's tomorrow, but long term. But thinking about, it's one thing to say, let's go put a generator out there, but like very specifically, when I managed the new construction of the Clark County Jail, we paid for switchgear to go on the power lines and ran 2 primaries to the transformer. And the purpose of that was, it was a cost, yes, but that transformer that can serve that jail got 36 hours worth of fuel in it. I mean, there's certain...
It's called redundant services.
And what we did was, we put proper switchgear on the poles, so you've got feeds, so if something happened in town, those guys can run out there, those switchgear, and it's backfed through a different facility. I mean, so there's a whole lot of thinking that goes into these things, and that's why, these projects we want to do, we got to start prepping and programming and all that kind of stuff, and all that way before we go call for a bond. But we got to start thinking that way.
So, I totally agree with you. And yes, I can work on that, putting something different.
I know
together
you're
that-
terribly busy with what
Well,
we're doing right here.
Just let me just kind of get through next week's budget stuff.
Can't have it
Get
this
people ready.
afternoon.
And in between, I'm still working on tweaking these numbers as we speak. I mean, it's like I told Christina yesterday. I have looked at these numbers up, down, sideways, backwards. I've looked at them in all kinds of ways, but every time I get the sheet almost done, somebody calls with something else that has happened. Oh, I didn't think about that,
Well,
we're gonna do
on the
that.
shortfall question, 1.2, 1.3, whatever, or whatever that shakes out to be. If you could categorize them into three different budget components, is 80% of it, salary increases at 3%, or is, 80% of it in, unexpected breakdowns from last year that, give us the big picture look at what that would be. Because when somebody says it, you're like, yeah, we're running the county on
Well,
this number of employees and.
And I'm gonna tell you, I mean, I can tell you with just looking at how things have gone this year, there's been a lot of crap that come down the pipe that was not included, that we didn't even know about in 2025 when we were working that budget, that has become mandated in some of these departments. It just gets dumped on you, then it carries over. Another area that has increased a good bit is over in the jail, the contract we signed. I mean, I think they're happy with that contract, and I'm not unhappy with the contract. I know it's needed, but the baseline was like 28,000 and something a month. It hasn't been that. It's running over 30,000, but it's because in the clause in the contract, we talk about it's this amount of money per mental case. Well, they are just, Lord have mercy, got so many mental cases over there, it is not funny. So the average that contract is running now is over 30 a month instead of 28, and it starts to add up. Their software maintenance contracts.
A big chunk of it is three patrol cars at $100,000 each, and 2 ambulances at $150,000 each, that we took off the SPOS consideration, but that's $500,000.
The other thing that right now sits in this budget that I probably will pull back out is the gravel for the road department. I mean, when we said, in the SPOS discussions, it was pulling that back to the general. Right now, over 300,000 sits in this budget that I probably will pull out of 26, because I feel like there's enough T-SPOS and SPOS remaining off of the 2020 that will be fine. I probably will take that back out. But when they put their request in, they did it based on that. So I'm going to go back. We're going to go tweak some more.
That's another thing that needs to be included in our informational dollars that we have access to, the remaining balance in T-SPOS, with anticipated T-SPOS and our current SPOS revenues are anticipated to be.
And Todd and I have looked at that. Like, one of the things that first came over was the intercom at the jail went out.
Yeah.
That was a nightmare for a few days. Mm-hmm. So then they came back and they said, hey, we want to add that to our capital because we will end up needing to replace this. Can you put it in there and let's do it prorated over 3 years? Well, I did that originally in this budget. So in one line item, currently, I have removed that and moved it over to a SPOS because they have enough SPOS money. And so we can earmark that as their need for an intercom instead of a car.
Well, I guess, Susan, for me, one of the challenges that is we have too many surprises. When a staff member, and I'll use the health department, advises the board during their presentation on this, that, you know, we've got cracks in the floors at our building, some of the plumbing's not good, but we're gonna get the company to come back out and jack it up again. And, you know, I pride myself on, well, I've got a high school education, I can read pretty well. And I go back and I look at some of the grand jury reports on things that they come back in. And forgive me, but there's not a word in there about deficiencies at the health department that either we took a broad brush and painted over stuff there, but you know, I mean, we've essentially got two buildings on that site now, the old fine finish building and the health department building, that if they were in Athens, Clarke County, they wouldn't be public services in those buildings.
And I have to say, I don't understand, I mean,
And I don't
I
understand.
think that part is dire, because I try to put myself in a place of Elizabeth going into that place with her staff. I wouldn't want to be in that building.
Well, I don't understand.
So I don't know why we got this far.
I don't understand, and I could be the only one at the table that's like this, but I don't understand how we as a board can be ignorant of something like that in the county. You know, that
I'm gonna
we.
be honest with you, I didn't know it was that dire either.
Well, we did,
No,
but.
no. I mean,
Well, that's one thing, and I think I've said this 1,000 times at meetings. We ought to have more meetings with folks and be asking more questions. They ought to be up here in front of us a lot more than they are.
Well, and that was.
You know, because we concentrate these meetings all into these days like this, and then you find out, and all you can do is just scratch. We just scratch in the surface of all this stuff instead
there's
of
a huge communication.
coming in here and let's talk about it. I mean, we should have been knowing, you
Well,
know.
that's.
I mean, they're coming to
exactly what-
somebody, but they ain't coming.
That last meeting, budget work session, and I had so many people email me, I've never presented to the board before, what do you want? And I'm like, I can't believe that you've never presented to the board, but this is what we want, this is how long. And when I asked the health department, I told her, I said, my understanding is this is what's going on with your building. I also need you to present this to the board. The health department has not come before the VOC and formally said we have.
Who in our organization should have been the one presenting anyway? Should have been the guys in charge of the
Let's judge stuff problems and all that.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like that there ought to have been some staff that were responsible for reporting these in their areas.
Yeah.
But it's just like, we haven't done it, we don't do it, we just sort of play with it every day, and then all of a sudden it becomes a major crisis, and then it's, oh, what are we doing? What are we doing? Well, if you let it get that way, some of these people need to know it. You let it get that way, because this is the first dang time I've heard anything about it.
Right. Well, I mean, I have to say, I was shocked. What was it? It was sometime last year, all of a sudden, this big invoice comes through where we paid Ramjack because no discussion, but we went and we jacked up the CID building again, and I was like,
Well, that was with the.
I guess that's what bothers me about it, is where do we get the money to do this if we ain't got the money to do stuff?
Well, even talk,
it was after the fact, Dennis, I promise you, because I was like,
well, even understand that everything's after the fact, as of today, I get it. But part of the conversation we had today was two different groups was, build something, but don't build it on land. I don't know of something right now that can identify where it stops.
That's what I want to know. We got.
Because the last map that somebody sent, the colors were wrong on it.
We're talking about
I don't know where it stops in the new one.
We're talking about moving stuff over there from one area to another, and I ain't got any confidence I won't put anything over there.
see, I agree with
On that
you.
side of the road. Maybe you put a ball field or something over there or something.
Well, I guess that's my point, is like, we need to find somebody to go poke
Well, I
the holes
did.
to find it.
That's right, we need it.
I did, let me think, who told me this? So, in all of this health department conversation, there was somebody that came, I know who it was Thomas, the IT guy, made a comment because Paul was in there, they were talking. He said that he has seen a drawing of the old landfill that he said that, what was the, Sandra, that Sandra Webb had.
The very best can't find it.
But she couldn't find it?
No,
And
I'm sure.
we've pulled
But-
recorded plats and we can't find, we can
I
find
mean,
it for the
it's gotta be
transfer
somewhere.
station, but not the old landfill.
Right.
Somebody.
Somebody needs to know what,
Somebody,
where that is.
somebody hid that thing.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to know.
Nobody wants to know. Because
Well,
it might be incriminating to,
well,
or
another thing about
embarrassing at least to some folks.
the health department, I did go back through, and find a lot of information. We had hired an engineer, they went out and said that the ground was buildable,
Well,
was
I know.
not, we went through litigation, so it was determined it was just, nobody was at fault or whatever. So we've already been through litigation with
I
that.
know, but I can't believe it.
But it's like a step right there, somewhere it ends.
Yeah.
Where does it end? Because those, I mean, again, you're right? We are trying to make conversations and planning, whether it's across the street or, you know, the idea that was floated, you know, putting it over by the transfer station or, you know, some of those types of services kind of outside of mind to preserve some property up here if we need to. I mean, those are real questions that we gotta know so we can be confident that when we do spend more money, that it's
That it's being
done
spent.
right.
Well, we have even discussed, the health department, the old Ready Care is an empty building, but it's on a larger lot. Purchasing it for maybe planning and zoning and buildings and animals to be moved out of this building to open up space. So there's been a lot of conversation internally, but we are probably getting to a spot where we need to be buying vacant buildings or vacant property.
Which takes money off tax roll.
Yep.
I move to adjourn.